Thank you, Juliet. Meanwhile, graphic and emotional testimony in the murder trial of James Colley Jr. He is accused of killing his estranged wife and her friend in 2015. Today's key pieces of evidence coming from a series of voicemails. On your sides, Julia Janae joins us live from St. Augustine. Julia.
Jeff, today the prosecution using evidence from Colley's cell phone as evidence today in this case against him, using those messages and texts and voicemails that he left in the weeks leading up to this shooting. Now, during the trial today, Colley kept his head down most of the time in the courtroom. We heard from crime scene detectives who found ammo at this, not the scene of the crime, but in the home where Colley was staying with his sister, a 9mm gun holster, prescription pills, and ammunition described as zombie rounds. These bullets are known to leave distinct marks on targets, marks that were found, and they match marks that were found on Amanda's body, according to the crime scene tech that testified today. Now, the best friend of Colley, Mike Dixon, had to take the stand today for the state, testifying about the text messages that he received from the man now on trial.
Did the defendant ever blame anyone in particular for causing, or I guess helping to cause, his marital problems with his wife Amanda?
I don't ever recall him naming anybody. No, sir.
Most of the text messages that the prosecution asked Dixon about, he said that he didn't remember, but he did say that he had warned Colley to stay away from Amanda's work and home as was required by the restraining order. Now, the defense said in opening statements yesterday they don't plan to argue that Colley didn't pull the trigger, but rather that he was under the influence of sleeping pills, Ambien, that put him in an altered state of mind. We could hear from the defense as early as Tuesday next week. We have all of those videos from yesterday and today's testimony on the First Coast News Facebook page. For now, reporting live from St. Johns County, Julia Janae, First Coast News, on your side.